A man named Iftikhar Siddiqui wakes up in his house due to a nightmare. In his dream, he saw a train accident, which he survived. He works as a manager at a railway station in the city of Bhopal and travels there. Meanwhile, an alarm sounds at Union Carbide India Limited's pesticide manufacturing plant. The chief engineer of Kamruddin is trying to find out from the workers what happened, but all the employees of this plant were poorly trained and cannot tell what the problem is. Kamruddin checks the temperature and sees that the instruments are off the charts. He runs to tanks with a dangerous chemical. The tanks under the concrete floor contain methyl isocyanate gas. He says there might be an explosion. He slowly walks to the center and touches the floor. Kamruddin says that the floor is cold, which means that the temperature indicator is faulty. The director of the plant comes and tells Kamruddin to fire the one who triggered the alarm. A young guy named Imad gives an interview to a local journalist. Imad says that he used to work at the Union Carbide plant. He says that the plant illegally stores a dangerous chemical. Management forces workers to transport gas, risking people's lives. Imad says that one drop of water will cause a chemical reaction that cannot be stopped. He says that the plant does not have the proper training and equipment to store this dangerous gas, and the workers do not have protective equipment or even gas masks. Meanwhile, Kamruddin talks to the boss and says that there are many problems at the plant that need to be fixed. But the director only thinks about the fact that the plant has not been profitable for a long time. He is afraid that they may be closed and says that no one from the management will allocate money to fix all the existing problems. Kamruddin says the plant poses a danger to residents of the entire city, but the director does not pay attention to his words. Imad says that his friend recently died. There was a small leak at the plant, and he was forced to fix the problem. Iftikhar comes to work and asks his subordinate if they have fixed the communication lines. After the tragedy that happened in his life, he began to take a very responsible approach to his work. He decides to personally check the communication lines and finds out that the workers did not fix the breakdown. He asks to hire another team of technicians to fix everything. Imad comes to apply for a job. Iftikhar immediately gives him a task. He must find out what malfunction is currently at the railway station. The guy has only 10 minutes to complete the test. A cleaning lady named Vijaya invites her boss to her daughter's wedding party. Imad manages to understand that the communication system is faulty and the clock is showing an inaccurate time. Iftikhar hires him. Meanwhile, a well-known criminal, who is called the Express Bandit, arrives at the next railway station to rob a rich man. There are many of his accomplices around, and even children help him commit crimes. But this time he is unlucky, and there are a lot of police around. He decides to leave. It turns out that he works in the police. His position is constable. He threatens the policeman in the toilet, and he gives him the log. The constable checks all the railway stations and finds out that there is a lot of money at the Bhopal station. This is his new goal. Imad comes home. The wife of his dead friend calls him. She says she will come to Bhopal by train. Imad promises her to accept them as his family and says that now he is responsible for them. Meanwhile, Kamruddin finishes his workday, but before leaving he goes to his boss's office and looks through secret documents. It says that there are many faults at the plant, but they are all classified. Kamruddin calls the journalist and tells him about this and goes home. Meanwhile, the shift supervisor at the factory gives a task to a young worker. He needs to start flushing pipes, but the worker does not know how to do it and says that he was hired without being trained in this. The shift supervisor says that we need to unscrew the water valve. Having done this, they leave. Iftikhar comes to the wedding. He is met by Vijaya and his daughter. The director congratulates them and gives instructions for the young woman. Meanwhile, Imad arrives for his first night shift at work. The chief driver gives him a task and begins to train him. At the factory, water begins to drip from the pipes. Workers complain of pain in their eyes, but the shift manager says that he doesn't see anything critical. He decides to drink tea first and then deal with the problem. Iftikhar arrives at the train station again. There he meets a constable. He says that a dangerous criminal will come here soon. The Express Bandit was about to rob the safe. The constable offers his help and says that he will catch the criminal. Iftikhar allows him to help and invites him to his office. The constable sees where the safe is and begins to wait for the right moment to rob it. The repair crew calls the dispatcher at the station. The technician says that they only fixed part of the line. To fix it completely, they will turn off the connection. There are a lot of people at Bhopal station. Meanwhile, at the plant, one of the engineers notices a malfunction. He immediately goes to check the temperature. He touches the floor and burns his hand. He calls the security station. Kamruddin returns to the factory. He asks his subordinates what happened. They say that they started flushing the pipes. He says that this should not have been done. Now the whole city is in mortal danger. He runs out into the street and sees that people are beginning to choke. Kamruddin tells the workers to wet the rags and apply them to their faces. He also orders to run away from the wind to save as many people as possible. Kamruddin says he must redirect the excess gas to the empty tank. With the last of his strength, he goes to the valves and sees that there are no empty tanks. A gas tank breaks out of the ground. Kamruddin died. People in the city do not yet know that poisonous gas is moving towards them. Itarsi Station, 10 minutes after a gas leak. Workers at the railway station are unaware that a dangerous gas has leaked in Bhopal. They are awaiting an inspection, and now they do not have time to find out why there is no connection with the station in Bhopal. Meanwhile, the train carrying the Imad family leaves for Bhopal. A woman with children gets into the carriage and meets the woman and her daughter. This woman behaves kindly, but her daughter is constantly sleeping and covered with a scarf. The man begins to talk about the history, the ancient people of India. He hates them and considers them monsters. The train guard asks the man to stop talking about it. He reaches the compartment and immediately understands that the woman is hiding her child, because they belong to the history. Vijaya comes to work and asks her boss to borrow some money for her wedding. The woman quickly goes home, but the gas is already in the city. People start to choke. They start falling right on the street. Slowly, panic sets in. The senior driver heads towards the train, but he smells a strange smell in the air. The driver begins to choke and falls to the ground. Imad goes outside and immediately understands what happened. He quickly makes himself a bandage for his face and goes to help the driver. All the people in the city begin to choke. The girl tries to find her mother, but sees only many lifeless bodies on the road. Her mother tries to walk home, but she is knocked down and begins to choke. Meanwhile, Iftikhar and the constable see a boy holding his brother in his arms outside the window. They run out to help him and see that panic has broken out on the street. Iftikhar asks the constable to stay with the child and call an ambulance while he goes to help people. People are trying to escape from an invisible threat, but it is impossible. Many people try to hide in the waiting room, but others break the windows. Iftikhar and the constable lead people to the office. And finally, there was silence on the street. Meanwhile, the journalist talks to the police, but their conversation is interrupted by an alarm. The man immediately understands what happened. The director arrives at the plant. The engineer tells what happened and says that if not for Kamruddin, there would have been more casualties. But the director's only concern is that he may be charged. He prohibits police and reporters from entering the plant and prohibits employees from talking about what happened. Many people gathered at the station. The doctor tries to help the woman. He gives her artificial respiration, but to no avail. Iftikhar sees that Vijaya has stopped breathing. Some people are starting to panic. Several men behave aggressively and demand that the constable go to the police station. The constable tries to explain that going out is dangerous, but people respond to this with rudeness. At this moment, Imad arrives at the station. People are trying to get out to leave. One man runs outside and falls to the ground seconds later. Iftikhar runs to the rescue. Imad says that there is a dangerous gas in the air. He is sure there was a leak at the plant. Imad explains that the only protective measure is wet bandages on the face. Iftikhar asks Imad to carry out an important mission. He must get to the repair team to fix the connection. This could save the lives of all these people. Meanwhile, the rebels arrive at the station and board the train. They begin searching for people of a different nationality. They are ready to take the lives of anyone they find. They reach the women with children. but the woman says that they are all family and are going to a wedding in Bhopal. The conductor tries to spoil the log with the names of passengers, but does not have time to do this. A train guard helps a woman and her child hide in the last carriage. Imad arrives at the other end of the station and sees that there are no more living technicians. Meanwhile, people are breaking a container of water in a panic. Iftikhar goes outside and returns a minute later with water for the people. Iftikhar tells people that a train will arrive here soon, and he should call Itarsi station so that they stop the train. People are against it. They want the train to come and pick them up. They begin to show aggression and are going to break the phone. The constable pulls out a gun and saves the station manager. Imad returns and says that there is no one to fix the connection. But Iftikhar recalls that the technicians managed to fix one part of the connection. He says he will try to contact the nearest station to relay the message. He tells Imad that he can go home to his mother, but Imad says that he knows everything about this gas and his mother has already died. Iftikhar tries to contact the nearest station, but no one can hear him. Meanwhile, an inspector arrives at the Itarsi station and finds out that there is no connection with the Bhopal station. He immediately calls the city and finds out the terrible news. He immediately calls Savania station and asks to stop the train. But because the watchman was locked in the last carriage, he could not see the red flag. The train travels to the poisoned city. And that's where the second episode ends. Write in the comments if you would like to see a continuation. If yes, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click on the bell to be the first to watch new videos.